During World War II, every soldier carried a sewing kit, a small pouch of needles, thread, buttons and safety pins, known as a housewife kit or husif. On the surface, it was a humble thing meant for repairing torn fabric or reattaching buttons. But in the harsh realities of war, it became something far more vital. Soldiers quickly discovered that this little sewing kit could do more than mend clothing. It could mend skin. In remote trenches, behind enemy lines, or deep in the wilderness with no medic in sight, the same tools that fixed a ripped sleeve were used to stitch up wounds, remove splinters, and improvise life-saving repairs. This forgotten piece of kit reminds us that survival isn't about what you carry. It's about how you use it. What began as a simple uniform repair kit became a life-saving tool. When military quartermasters issued sewing kits to soldiers, they had no intention of turning every man into a medic. But war has a way of reshaping purpose. The average soldier on the front lines quickly learned that a needle and thread weren't just about neat appearance. They were about survival. In the mud of the Western Front, the deserts of North Africa, or the jungles of Burma, uniforms tore, packs ripped and tents frayed constantly. Supplies were limited and replacements were rare. A broken strap could cost a man his rations or ammunition. A hole in a boot could mean frostbite. The husif kept those problems manageable. Yet when men found themselves isolated and injured, the same compact kit became a makeshift medical station. Needles were sterilized in flames, thread boiled in canteens, and crude but effective sutures were performed by steady hands with more courage than experience. This adaptability was never written in manuals. It came from necessity, passed from veteran to recruit in the quiet spaces between chaos. Soldiers learned to adapt their sewing kits into medical tools with skill and courage. In the field, soldiers often had to operate in conditions where medics couldn't reach them quickly. Minor wounds, left untreated, could become deadly within days due to infection. The solution was both desperate and brilliant. A needle meant for fabric could pierce flesh just as well, and strong cotton thread could hold a wound together long enough for real medical attention. Before attempting such field repairs, soldiers took every step they could to sterilize their tools. A needle would be heated over a lighter or the end of a cigarette until it glowed dull red, killing most bacteria. The thread, often waxed for durability, was boiled in a mess tin of water or wiped down with available alcohol, sometimes even the same liquor in their canteens. Then, with calm precision, the edges of the wound were pulled together and stitched in small, even loops. Crude? Yes. Effective? Absolutely. Many accounts from both Allied and Axis soldiers describe such improvised sutures saving lives when evacuation wasn't an option. Beyond stitching wounds, the kit was also used to remove embedded shrapnel, dig out splinters, and even fashion makeshift bandages from torn uniform scraps. In jungle campaigns, where infections spread fast, the sewing kit became a frontline medical companion. Small enough to fit in a pocket, but invaluable in its versatility. Today, survivalists and preppers recognize that the principles soldiers used back then are still relevant. You don't need a military background to apply them, just knowledge and preparation. A well-packed sewing kit, when combined with basic first aid training, can become one of the most underrated components of any survival pack. To replicate this World War II method, start with a compact kit that includes needles of various sizes, heavy-duty thread, small scissors or a knife edge, and alcohol wipes, or antiseptic gel. If you find yourself in a situation where you need to close a wound and no sterile medical equipment is available, follow a simplified version of what soldiers did. First, clean the wound thoroughly with clean water or antiseptic. Next, sterilize the needle by holding it briefly over a flame or dipping it in alcohol. Use strong thread, preferably nylon or polyester, since these resist fraying and absorb less bacteria. When stitching, make shallow passes through the skin, just enough to close the gap, not deep into the tissue. Keep the stitches small and even, just like fabric repair. Once closed, cover the area with a clean cloth or bandage. This should only ever be a temporary measure until proper medical treatment is available. But in survival conditions, temporary can mean the difference between life and death. The same sewing kit can also repair critical survival gear. You can re-sew torn shelter fabric, reattach straps to your backpack, or patch a ripped sleeping bag. It's the same mindset those soldiers had. Use what you have to keep moving, keep surviving. The sewing kit represents self-reliance, discipline, and ingenuity. What makes the hussif so symbolic isn't just its function, it's what it stood for. Every soldier who carried one carried a small reminder of home and personal responsibility. It represented the idea that no one was going to fix things for you. You fixed them yourself. In both uniform maintenance and emergency medicine, it was a lesson in self-sufficiency and mental toughness. Even medics carried enhanced versions of the same kit. Some included curved surgical needles, sterile gut thread, and small clamps, but the foundation was the same, a needle and thread. It blurred the line between combat readiness and personal care, a dual-purpose philosophy that defined wartime survival. For modern outdoor enthusiasts, this mindset remains crucial. You may never need to stitch your skin in a forest or jungle, but knowing how to repair, adapt and improvise gives you confidence no technology can replace. A needle weighs next to nothing, but in the right hands it can save equipment, time and even lives. The forgotten sewing kit that doubled as medical gear is more than just a relic of military history. It's a symbol of adaptability and resourcefulness. Soldiers didn't see limits, they saw possibilities. They turned an ordinary tool into a means of survival through skill, courage, and the will to endure. For anyone passionate about fieldcraft, bushcraft, or historical survival techniques, this is a lesson worth keeping alive. So next time you're packing your outdoor gear or emergency bag, remember that small sewing kit tucked away in the corner. It may look simple, but it carries a legacy of survival that stood the test of time. If you enjoyed this deep dive into wartime ingenuity and want more forgotten survival knowledge from history's front lines, make sure to subscribe to The Backyard. Share this with someone who values practical skill over gadgetry, because the old ways still have lessons to teach, especially when the modern ones fail.